one ignore the possibility of a cas- cas- causal connection between that involvement and the shambles that Qumran research has become. One become one is compelled to ask, as indeed many informed outsiders have, whether some other vested interest may be at stake. A vested interest larger than the reputations of individual scholars, the vested interest of Christianity as a whole, for example, and of Christian doctrine, at least as propounded by the Church and its traditions ever since the Dead Sea Scrolls were first discovered. One single, all-pervasive question has haunted the imagination, generating excitement, anxiety, and perhaps dread. Might these texts, issuing from so close to the source, and unlike the New Testament, never having been edited or tampered with, shed some significant new light on the origins of Christianity, on the so-called early church in Jerusalem, and perhaps on Jesus himself? Might they contain something compromising, something that challenges, possibly even refutes, established traditions? Certainly, official interpretation ensured that they did not. There is, of course, nothing to suggest any deliberate or systematic falsification or evidence on the part of the international team. But for Father de Vaux, his most intensely personal convictions were deeply engaged and were bound to have exerted some influence. The key factor is determining the significance of the scrolls and their relation, or lack of it, to Christianity consisted of course in their dating. Were they pre or post Christian? How closely did they coincide with Jesus' activities around AD 30, with the travels and letters of Paul, roughly between AD 40 and 65, with the composition of the Gospel between AD 70 and 95? Whatever the date ascribed to them, they might be a source of possible embarrassment to Christendom. But the degree of embarrassment would be variable. If, for example, the scrolls could be dated from well before the Christian era, they might threaten to compromise Jesus' originality and uniquences, might show some of his words and concepts to have been not wholly his own, but to have derived from a current of thought, teaching, and tradition already established and in the air. If the scrolls dated from Jesus' lifetime, however, or from shortly thereafter, they might prove more embarrassing still. They might be used to argue that the teacher of righteousness who figures in them was Jesus himself, and that Jesus was not therefore perceived as divine by his contemporaries. Moreover, the scrolls contained or implied certain premises. inimical to subsequent images of early Christianity. There were, for example, statements of a militant messianic nationalism, associated previously only with the zealots when Jesus was supposed to be non-political, rendering unto Caesar what was Caesar's. It might even emerge that Jesus had never dreamed of founding a new religion or of contravening Judaic law.